he gets bored down there. He still gets involved with the company. You know, he still looks over bids and stuff like that. So we miss that. Since let's get up in the morning to want to get his coffee. See.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Euclid Township Planning Commission for January 7th, 2026. I'd like to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. To start out tonight's meeting, we will be reorganizing. At this time, I have the floor open for nominations for chair. And I would like to nominate Nick Kurtz for chairman of the Planning Commission.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed. Nick, congratulations. Second, we need a vice chair. Do I have any nominations for vice chair of the Euclid Township Planning Commission?
I would like to nominate Dennis Martin as the vice chair of the Planning Commission.
A second.
I have that and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Dennis. And now I'm looking for a secretary. Do I have any nominations for secretary for the Planning Commission?
I will nominate Michael Freed for the secretary position of the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
I have a nomination and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Michael, congratulations.
Thank you.
With that, as my last over, I will hand my gavel over to Nick and let him take the chair.
Thank you, Dennis. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the October 1st, October 14th, and October 15th, 2025 meeting minutes? Does anybody have any comments or revisions to the meeting minutes? If not, do I have a motion to pass the meeting minutes as written?
Second.
I have a motion
Oh, I would like to make a motion.
and I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the zoning ordinance task force update. Tara, if you'd like to give an update.
I would love to. So as some of you are aware, because you're also on the task force with us, Euclid Township is updating our zoning ordinance with the assistance of the County Planning Commission. It is a 2-year process. We're going to be giving updates monthly on where we are because we're having these meetings right before the Planning Commission meetings. We did not meet in December, so today was a nice recap of our November meeting, where we did have a lengthy discussion on natural resources and protection standards, specifically for riparian buffers. Our current ordinance requires a 50-foot riparian buffer setback from a protected water course. We were talking about doing a 200-foot setback. So it would be 100 feet on each side of the stream. We are still in discussions about that. Ultimately, we want to look at the properties that would be affected that currently have waterways on their properties, if it's going to impact them, how it would impact them, if it's something that we keep in the zoning ordinance, or if it's something that we would apply to new subdivisions that are coming in. Not sure if that's something you guys want to weigh in on or have questions about.
Yeah, real quick, would that just be a 200 aggregate? So it could be 50 and 150, or does it have to be 100?
It would be 100 and 100. We also, today, we were talking about residential zoning districts and permitted uses that are currently in residential districts. And any other additional uses that we're considering, specifically accessory dwelling units. If they should be permitted by right, by special exception, by conditional use. We are still weighing those options. If you guys have feedback, we're happy to hear. If you have any questions, Laura, Dennis, Nick, if you want to elaborate on some of our conversations, you're welcome to do so.
I think the general sentiment to consider these is to provide flexibility for property use and also to encourage next generation or aging generation to have housing. So that is a just general community need that was discussed as to why we would be considering these options that came up as we were, just to kind of talk about that the community needs are built into these conversations. It isn't just very nuts and bolts. We do bring in the whole concept of longevity of our community, health for our community, and just the considerations of the way of life and how we want this township to be and that provide tools for the next generation.
That was a great summary.
Thank you.
It's not without discussion, though. I mean, it's a process.
It is a
To
process.
do the pros and cons and the considerations of what might come up, what could be a potential pitfall, what could be a success, and what could be something that we'd want to drastically avoid.
I promise we're not going to relive the last hour and a half of our meeting. But I mean, some of the conversations that we got into were around, right now, we just started being focused on residential districts, and kind of starting to look at what uses we want in there. We had expressed to the County Planning Commission that we were interested in accessory dwelling units. That'll be the last time I say accessory dwelling units. More like backyard cottages, small, tiny homes that you can build on the property. And so we got into conversations about, like, should those be allowed as by right in all residential districts? Or should they be in special exception or as part of the conditional use, or should they be subject to conditional use? I think I know at least some people were advocating that they be by right within all residential districts. And, you still have to conform with the area and bulk regulations of the lot. But if you can build it, you can build it. And then there were other more extreme conversations around things like eliminating parking requirements and eliminating lot size requirements, maybe allowing by right conversions to duplexes and triplexes in all single family, all residential districts that allow single family homes, different things like that. So I think the task force will continue to have a lot of this dialogue. There are going to be points where we bring certain subjects to the Planning Commission of, hey, this is what the task force is thinking. What do you think? Kind of get everybody's perspective on those things. And yeah, kind of going back to the riparian buffers, one of the things that we're looking at is what the impacts are to existing properties from those expanded riparian buffers. And once we have a little more information, then I think we're going to come back and really look for some feedback from the planning commission on those things, feedback from the supervisors on riparian buffers and where we want to go there. I know in the comprehensive plan, increased natural resource protections is a priority in the comp plan, and so that's certainly something that we're going to want to have additional dialogue around.
So going back to the it was called accessory structures or accessory dwellings.
Yeah, accessory dwelling units,
Dwellings.
backyard cottages.
Are these unique novel ideas that are being proposed by the task force, or they're benchmarked against surrounding townships?
So it's a mixture. Admittedly, back in November, I went to an absolutely amazing seminar, summit, something on affordable housing. And there was a speaker there. His name was Chuck Marone. He's an engineer by background. That is his background. And he has created this movement called Strong Towns. And the mission of that organization, he was kind of the keynote speaker there. And I think I came back and I said to Tara and Katie, I've been to a lot of these things and they've all kind of been blah. And this one was kind of mind blowing. It was really energizing for me. But Strong Towns is a lot of these ideas are, they published a toolkit on code reform, and I think they laid out six recommendations. And those are certainly some of them. Yeah.
Just as background for the accessory dwelling units or the backyard cottages that we're going to call them. Currently, we allow for in-law suites on properties. They do have to be part of the existing structure. They are allowed to have their own kitchen, but we also require that they record a restrictive covenant to say that they will not be rented out as a apartment should the in-laws, no longer be there. So that's one of the things to also consider. I mean, we do have accessory units now for in-laws or family members, but this would then change it to be, if your in-law passed, you would then be able to rent out, whether it was part of your house or a freestanding unit.
Yeah, I would imagine that becomes more of an issue when you have a freestanding. You're more likely to rent to someone when they're not living attached to your home. So
One of the requirements also, if you were to have a single family property with a unit on there, you would have to reside at the house. So you wouldn't be able to rent out both structures.
Were you contemplating changing the ADUs to detached from attached?
That is one of the topics that we were talking about. They have the granny pods or the tiny homes or whatever you call them now. You would be able to have a freestanding structure as opposed to having to build an addition on your house and not being able to rent it to somebody that's not a family member.
But there are limitations on size and
There are limitations on size. I believe
height.
we're proposing no more than 1,200 square feet.
Correct. I think it was no more than 2 stories
Has to be a certain percentage size of the
primary.
primary structure. Can be part of the primary structure.
And all the setback ordinance and stuff, yes.
Setbacks, zoning district have to be met.
Well, it really needs,
Coverage.
yeah, that's gonna need to be really clear because otherwise you're gonna have people shoehorning things into properties where they don't belong.
Yeah, I mean, all the state regulations, stormwater, all of our would also be an impact to that.
With people with on-site septic, they're gonna have to,
They would need approval from the county.
yeah, I mean, they can't go through CHD and, yeah, right. So they're gonna have to re-perk or possibly build a second field or,
Or larger tank.
right, okay. Trying to understand. All right.
Would there then be concerns with like parking and traffic? Because now, you know, maybe you had two cars at your house, now you have four cars at your house. Like, are there other, I guess, equitable or similar townships or, you know, that have done this? And like, what was the increase in properties that, like, you know, took the township up on that? Like, is that a concern with?
So currently our single family dwellings require 3 parking spaces. Any other townhouses or anything else is 2.5 per unit. The revision to the ordinance, we were proposing 1 additional parking space for the other unit. We've also talked about eliminating parking requirements completely for all residential and maybe.
Was that potential elimination to reduce impervious surface in the township? Or eliminate unused impervious?
Yeah, right. I mean, you look at it and there's a lot of blacktop that just sits.
Yeah.
Because we have these parking requirements. And so really looking at that to kind of get to your question. I've yet to see any place in the country that has implemented this that has really been overrun by like 90% of the property.
Yeah.
They're gonna go put accessory dwellings on their property and generate a whole lot more traffic.
Yeah.
And you know, part of our conversation is also like there are certain parcels that were built back in the 50s and 60s that when you look at them today, they would not have been built today. And so the way that those lots are situated and our area and bulk regulations, they're probably pretty limited on what they can actually put on that parcel of land. And so part of this exercise is going to also need to be, and I think Dan, our township engineer, is gonna work on this of like, okay, let's take a typical lot in Williamsburg. Let's take a typical lot in Marchwood and a typical lot in the Seasons. What can you really get onto that lot and see what that would look like? So we have a more visual and concrete understanding of what that would potentially.
So once all those things get done, like, it could come out that only 5% of like the lots in the township are even like eligible for this sort of thing.
Exactly. And the ultimate goal is, and I think Tara, somebody mentioned it, is one, giving the ability for property owners to leverage their property. But allow folks to age in place, allow for that generational growth to occur organically. You know, I think Dennis, I don't want to speak for him, but you know, Dennis said, my daughter would love to buy that house and I'll go live in the backyard, in the backyard cottage, and allow for that generational growth. To Tara's point, the way that it's set up right now, okay, I have an in-law suite in my house. My mom comes and lives with me and she passes. Now I've got 800 square feet, 600 square feet of living space that just sits. Like, what? Now what am I doing with it?
That's where you're going.
Yeah, right. And then ultimately, and the goal behind, one of the goals behind Strong Towns in posing a lot of these things is to then generate additional supply, which from a supply and demand perspective helps affordability. And you know, we had a lot of conversation around, well, Euclid's a pretty desirable place, and you know, we've got an outstanding school district, and people are going to pay top dollar to live here. But if we can increase the supply here, maybe that has kind of downstream effects in other places that maybe the affordability here isn't directly impacted, but you know, in West Goshen, the affordability is impacted because there's additional supply created in the area, in the region. It's a great thought exercise.
Definitely.
And in my opinion also, yeah, I mean, we got to look out for our young and our old. that can only afford in this township, and things are pretty pricey for both those ends of the spectrum. But a lot to consider and mull over.
Can I ask a general question about the zoning task force that has nothing to do with ADUs? Because it comes up a lot in a lot of township conversations, other townships. It's a really hot topic right now, data centers. Any specific, putting that out as a specific use and separate from other industrial uses?
We are currently working on a draft ordinance for data centers. It's definitely something we're gonna be talking about use-wise, where we should allow for them to be within Euclid Township, because in every municipality, you have to plan, for every single use.
Right.
It has to be a little close. So that'll be one of the things that we're gonna need to discuss once we're a little closer on the draft.
Is there a thought there to, separate or segregate scale and size and scope? Because some facilities, like the data center you have in the ground floor of your office building, is completely different than a giga center. There's a sliding scale of magnitude for these things.
We're still working on it, but yes, and I think the requirements for the data center based on size differs. Noise is something that we have to look at, just because the generators that are cooling all of that, water consumption issues. Bless you. So like Aqua's gonna need to be involved in that, Pico. There's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
For that, and where they go.
Does the planning commission have any thoughts on what districts that use could potentially be appropriate for?
Well, you would think it would fall under PIC to start with.
Yeah.
And then from there, is they have to meet all the noise and light requirements, which should handle, I know what they're using is a lot of gas-fired generators nowadays, which, if located properly and sound attenuation barriers put up properly, they're not bad, because we use them for emergency a lot of times when our schools, if you run an entire school off that, so. But, it's all evolving, obviously, and I don't know whether this part of the country is as heavily interested in it than other parts of it. We're going to see it here more. Is it going to be geographically spread out, or is it going to actually be very localized, and then all the fingers go out from there?
I
So,
think it depends on the size. I mean, you
Yeah.
might have a large one somewhere, and then you could have smaller,
satellites of some sort, right? It's all an interesting conversation.
We have seen proposals for large facilities in area townships around us. But one thing, because of the uncertainty about whether or not they can get power and gas and all that other things, these people go out and they pick 5 or 6 different sites, and they start all their proposals on all of them simultaneously. And then PJM starts to become obligated to feed all of them, which is never going to happen because they're not actually going to build all of them, but
Yeah.
it's creating chaos.
It's a Chinese, it's one from column A and one from column B, another from column
Yeah.
C. Do you, what do you see as a square footage for things? Is there,
It's comparable to some of the mega warehouses
okay,
on the biggest ones.
yeah, because you certainly can't stack anything. You're going to have to be one
Well-
story, pretty much everything's got to be one story.
Yeah, I've worked on two or 3 story data centers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I've seen them in the city, but I've never seen them out here.
yeah, it's probably not the most.
Efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the actual white space itself where the servers are is only one, function of the space. Then you have all your electrical gear, your cooling equipment, and then your farm of cooling towers and generators. And so the actual footprint of the facility is much larger than what we call the white space, which is the actual server space. So
Interesting.
it's a bit of a thing that a lot of people are dealing with now. So I'm just good to hear it's on the menu for
Yeah. There was an article in the Daily Local this morning about it.
really. Okay.
Yes, on the front page.
On,
I'm not going to get into details about the data centers. I forget what township they're in. I think it's where Penhurst or
Yeah, Penhurst.
Penhurst. Yep.
It's on the Asylum
Um,
property.
Up in that township where it's
Yeah.
being proposed. So yeah, it's a very hot
There's,
topic.
there's some other big ones down
What's
in
that?
Delaware. There's,
And there's North Coventry, maybe.
I think East Vincent.
Doesn't go all the way up there.
I don't know.
Oh, there's this Spring City, Royersford, right?
Thank you.
Tara and Bobby, before we get away from the task force update, do you just want to give the commission and the public like what the future steps are for the process since we're starting to hit like second drafts? Just brief.
So ultimately, we're working through the ordinance. As Tara said, it's really slated to be a 2-year process. Kicked off in September. There'll be probably some wiggle room there. The meetings are open to the public, right? So the public has the ability of attending. We meet generally speaking, we're meeting the first Wednesday at 5:30. 5 o'clock. But the first Wednesday of the month at 5 o'clock here at the township building. The public certainly has the opportunity to observe. Ultimately, once we've kind of worked through the update and all of the amendments to it, there'll be a presentation to the planning commission. There'll be some public meetings and public outreach opportunities to really help educate the public on what the changes are, what this really looks like, and be able to get input. We're legally required to have a hearing, and it'll go, the planning commission will have to review it and recommend it or not. And then ultimately it'll go to the board of supervisors, and the board will have to have a hearing, vote on whether to adopt it or not, or other changes that may need to be. So 2027, late 2027, early 2028 could have the updated zoning ordinance.
Are you going to do it all at once? Or are you going to do it in phases or batches?
Yeah, I think the plan is to do it all, to have the single codified document. Do a hearing on that. And like I said, as different items come up where we need or are looking for planning commission feedback or supervisors feedback, we'll be asking.
And does anybody else have any other comments or questions on the task force update? With that, I'll see if there's any public comment. Before I make a motion to adjourn, I wanted to welcome Rachel, our newest member to the commission.
Thank you.
I wonder who she was.
Glad to have you.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
With that, I'll make a motion, or can someone motion to adjourn the meeting?
No, you need to ask for any public comment, don't you?
He did.
Huh?
I did.
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry. I'll turn my hearing aids up.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Melissa said-